Tips on task initiation. I have a million plans for streaming. I want to draw, etc., but I just never start because I'm scared to fail. Any sage advice? Well, unfortunately, a lot of people are limited in their lives because they're terrified of failing, which is very, very dumb. Everyone fails all the time at everything. There is nobody who is so competent at all the things they choose to do that they never experience failure. There are no real consequences to your failure, by the way. You know this, yes? You're not a bridge engineer. It's not as though your failure will lead to people dying. You know, your failure just means that you gained nothing from your experience except experience. What's wrong with this? This is a good thing. Even failing in social interactions. People are so terrified to fail at social interactions because they don't want to get bad first impressions with others. Who cares? Maybe some people get a bad first impression. Whatever. If as long as you weren't doing anything malicious, harmful, again, you know, I'm leaving out like bad behavior here. Maybe people think you're awkward or a bit weird. So what? Who cares? A lot of these people are never going to see you again, though. I've seen people who are insecure about how perfect strangers feel about them when they're never going to see each other again. People who live in cities. People who, you know, some barista thinks you're awkward. Okay. What are they your boss? Ridiculous. Again, that's not an excuse to be weird to people, like make their day worse for no reason. But if they think you're a little awkward, you know, you leave the Starbucks, you know, you were a tiny bit awkward. You're at a store and you pull out your phone to see something and a music plays a bit too loud, you quiet it down, someone gives you a weird look. Who cares? They're going to stop thinking about you 8 seconds after you leave the place. You're going to keep thinking about them until you fall asleep that night, and probably the next morning, too. This is why people with insecurities are often so self-centered. Not intentionally, it's not a malice thing. But people who worry about how others think about them often overestimate the extent to which others think about them. You have been in classrooms, no? You have seen people give public presentations that are maybe, oh, delivered a bit awkward, or they forgot a line for a second or whatever. How long did you continue to remember that experience of theirs? 5 seconds? Did you care? In your mind, you probably just felt a bit of empathy for them, no? If you do a little fuck up publicly, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And you know what? If you do a big fuck up publicly, you get to live forever in their mind as a story. Don't forget that, too. If you do something genuinely embarrassing, then you get even better outcomes. Not only is it not a big deal, not only is it not something you should worry about, but you now live forever as an icon in their mind. And what is the negative effect to you? What if you stumble and slip in a store? I see people, oh, they beat themselves up over this years. What kind of human does that? You know, humans slipping, it's like one of the most fundamental things we can do, right? Like we're bipedal. We're one of the only bipedal animals. You know, oh no, you stumbled for 1 second one time for the entirety of the entire calendar year that you're in, and someone saw, and you're just gonna think about that months later, you know, oh, that woman saw me briefly lose balance. Nobody cares. Ridiculous. This is bringing up bad memories. Why are they bad memories? Did you hurt someone? Is someone dead? Have you dismembered people? What is a bad memory? Should bad memories not reflect on real negative things happening? Not some like pithy little nothing. You worry about some stranger thinking you're what? Goofy? Clumsy? I shit myself on the slide in front of my first crush. Great. And now you're over with it and you won't do it again. What, are you still hurting someone? Are your shit pants in the room with you right now? What, you still think of this? Why do you let the ghosts of yesterday haunt you today? I know you do, Shu. They're chains. Those shit pants exist only in the minds of the people who choose to think about it. You're choosing to think about it. I mean, you can think about it if you want. You shouldn't let it bother you, though. I remember embarrassing things I've done. They just don't bother me. They're chains. You're swimming in an ocean and the shit pants are chained to you. You sink. It's called shame. Have you never experienced this? I think, generally speaking, people should be ashamed of things that actually hurt others. People should be ashamed of shameful things, like morally negative experiences or elements of their character that are hurting themselves or others. I think shame should be a tool to guide people towards good behavior or to help them reflect on the things that led to previous bad behavior. Stuff like that, you know? This is not applicable with the shit pants. Um, if anything, it should be funny, no? Yes. People should be able to laugh at themselves. Well, of course. And I think, to be fair, a lot of people with insecurities do know how to laugh at themselves. It's that it's very difficult to laugh and also not to feel genuine embarrassment. But the embarrassment is irrational. You're lying in bed at night. It's 2 a.m. and you're laying there and you just think, "Ah, oh, remember that time when I was in high school and I totally biffed it in front of that cute girl?" What utility do these thoughts serve? Are you atoning? Are you addressing something? Are you improving something? Are there moral outcomes you're improving? Like, no, nothing. Your mind is torturing you for absolutely no reason. And I don't think, by the way, that that should be normalized any more than we should normalize like any other irrational, negative, delusionary behavior, like people who have suicidal ideation or depressive people who think that they're so bad and everyone hates them even though their brain is lying to them. In any case, your brain is lying to you. You're torturing yourself for no reason. Not to say it's necessarily a deliberate thing. It's usually a anxiety response. I'm not saying you're doing it like intentionally, but it's something that should be overcome. You get me, no? Your glasses are scuffed? I know my glasses are scuffed. You probably need a new one. You make it sound like getting rid of mental issues is easy. Nope, it's not easy at all. But, of course, there are things that you can do. You know, getting rid of depression and anxiety are not easy. Not even remotely. Getting rid of them isn't even the right term to use, really. But there are always things that you can do to alleviate symptoms and improve behavior. And I think that learning to not be so concerned over meaningless, shameful things that you feel you've done years ago that have no moral weight today, I think that's part of it. Because people are afraid to death of cringe and it's very powerful. Yeah, well, the reason, like, there is an evolutionary reason why you have those feelings, by the way. The shame response that people have seems to be something that paralyzes you and prevents you from acting shamelessly, from acting with reckless social abandon. Because back when humans lived in tribes, being socially intolerable to others would get you kicked out of the tribe. No? Back in those days, being intolerable could have life or death consequences. Nowadays, intolerable people tend to not have many friends, but they can still live just fine. They can find employment, you know, if they're awkward or annoying or whatever. Like, these people don't just die. But just because something has some dubious evo-psych explanation doesn't mean it's justified, right? Like, there's no reason to think these ways, especially because we're now capable of interpersonal communication and can explain away awkward situations. Sometimes they can be bonding experiences. You know, this is one of the reasons why in all of the anime that you guys watch, very often a sign of two characters bonding is when they share embarrassing experiences with one another. Is that not a frequent um, sort of indicator of people getting to know each other better, right? People find people who haven't had awkward experiences off-putting because everybody has, and anyone who hasn't had them is either incapable of recognizing when they've had awkward experiences, which is a red flag, or they're too proud to share them with others, which means they either take themselves too seriously or they're so insecure they can't bear it. Either way, potentially red flags, you know. The ability to be lighthearted about stuff like this is important, I think. What are your thoughts on dealing with regret? I've made decisions where I've put my parents, making my parents proud over my own happiness, and most of the time I'm not really bothered with my actions, but I have days where it eats at me a little. I have to say, I think that's unfortunate that those two things are not aligned, making yourself happy and making your parents proud. But the best way to deal with regrets is to point your drill at the heavens and open up new opportunities for action that you will not regret. See, oftentimes people feel regret because there are these pivotal life moments where they think they make one choice over the other or whatever, and they don't care for the one that they have made. But in reality, the opportunity to have experiences where you need to make choices and thus potentially regret those choices, you can do this all the time. Um, you know, anytime you do something that you regret, but you can't like take it back, like it's just a thing that has happened, um, do another thing that you will not regret. Make opportunities for yourself where you will look back on them and think positively. Create clusters of experiences where every negative is collected with a series of positive ones. You know? Sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to. That's just life. There's nothing to be done about that. Um, but there are always more opportunities to do things than people are usually willing to usually willing to acknowledge, I think. Yes, I think a degree of awkwardness can be very endearing. I agree. When are you past the point of no return, though, Vosh, with the regrets and stuff? Idiot question. There's no such thing. Past the point of no return is when you die. When your heart stops beating. Sorry, it's not an idiot question. When your heart stops beating, that is when you are past the point of no return, vis-a-vis regrets. At that point, you've done it. You've gone. That's the point of no return. Past that, not much you can do. Before that, always something that you can do. Always, 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 always. I think a major thing is not being able to not take yourself too seriously. Yeah, that's just a good life skill in general. Wait, I look briefly at YouTube chat and I see the last thing that I want to say. Honestly, my life got so much better when I stopped caring about what people thought of me, such as hobbies. This is very true, by the way. Many people have this highly overdeveloped sense of self-consciousness where you're terrified of any kind of authentic self-expression because you're worried other people will think less of you. I promise you, especially as you get older, there is nothing less interesting than a person who can't share their interests because they're afraid of being judged by others. I will not fuck with these people. They are just so absolutely beneath me. Their insecurity is their problem. Life is interesting because it's full of weird people with strong interests that they know a lot about. That's literally the whole point. Look at any media, anywhere, any book, anime, movie, TV show, whatever. What characters do people like? Well, they like people with strong, evident personalities, often that have interests that they're both competent at and willing to share information on. People like that. Fundamentally, people like that. When has anyone ever like, ah, yeah, dude, I really like that character who is like really uninterested in sharing anything about themselves, and they just didn't really do much, and they just tried to act like very normal and didn't like showcase what they had. Yeah, great character. you know. Of course, you can make a good character out of anything here, but in terms of who you would want to spend time with, I would rather spend time with people who are unapologetically autistic about their interests than anyone who would, oh, I'm so worried. Okay, but the skill to recognize the other person does not care and just shut the fuck up helps. No, no, don't think of it that way. If you're sharing your interest, I agree. It is an element of good charisma to make the other person feel like they have an out to the convo so that they can always leave gracefully. And you know that if they stay, it is because they want to. But if they do not leave, that's their problem. You're not at fault if they're too awkward or stiff or whatever to leave the conversation their own. Don't like feel super guilty about that. You started sounding a bit French, Vosh. No? Yes, I hate that. I thought about that. The problem is I like saying comma no question mark at the end of many of my statements to make them rhetorical questions, but I hate the way that sounds when pronounced in the English pronunciation. Hey, don't you think this should be done? No? Like, it sounds very conceited, probably because of the intonation necessary to inflect that O note. But if you just say no, it just seems like a very flippant thing, which I think makes it come across as less self-absorbing, like less pretentious. Yeah, I think it comes across better in writing with the implied O inflection, but the I think just meant like, yeah, like, it's like the difference between saying yeah and yeah, you know? It just so happens that that pronunciation of O is what the Frenchies say. Use Japanese ne at the end to say, nah? You guys like my mental health advice? Nah? Nah? Nya? Nya.